This News presents Newsmakers with your host, Jane Ann Bugda and Andy Mahalchik.
Hello and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Jane Ann Bugda along with Andy Mahalchik. The Family Service Association of Northeast PA brings awareness and support to a number of issues in our community, everything from bullying to veterans issues. And each November they gather for a family day-long conference on one important community issue. And that's what we're talking about today. When we come back, we'll unveil that topic and we'll introduce you to our guests when this edition of Newsmakers returns right after this. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Jane Ann Bugda along with Andy Mahalchik. In a few short weeks, the Family Service Association of Northeast PA will hold its day-long family conference on one important community issue. And this year the title is LGBTQA United Together. And joining us to talk about the topic are some of the organizers and some of the speakers of the day's events. I'm joined by Mike Zimmerman, who is the CEO of the Family Service Association of Northeast PA, Sarah Lubiner, who is with the Family Service Association. She's a counselor there, and John Daw, who is the Executive Director of the Rainbow Alliance. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Interesting topic that we're discussing today, because every year you hold a conference that tackles an issue, and it's a day-long conference. So before we get into the topic and what you're going to be speaking about, I want our viewers to get a little bit more familiar with your groups. First, let's start with the Family Service Association of Northeast PA. Explain a little bit what that is.
Well, we're a smaller not-for-profit organization. We're independent, which means that we're not tied to any government entity or any faith-based groups. And our programs really run the range of course, our helpline program, which is similar to our signature program, that provides information, referral, and crisis intervention services throughout 5 counties, to our counseling program, of which Sarah is one of our clinicians, which is social work based. It's not medical based counseling. And then we do a lot of programs with youth in our community, especially youth who are at risk because they've been involved in foster placement or maybe they've had scrapes with the juvenile justice system. So it's really a very comprehensive program. We also run kind of the age spectrum. Although we have a lot of programs for youth, and we do counseling around couple counseling, individual counseling, even parent-child counseling, we also have a guardianship program, which primarily services people who are up in age, are declared incompetent by the court, and have no one to assist them with life decisions, whether it's medical decisions or even in protecting their own estate.
So you cover a broad area. But what area do you serve in our...
Geographically, we cover 5 counties. It's Luzerne, Wyoming, Bradford, Tioga, and Sullivan counties.
Now, each year the Family Service Association hosts the day-long conference. And in the past, you've been on to talk about some of the other topics, which were veterans issues and juvenile justice. How do you decide what you're going to talk about?
We have a committee that's a part of our Friends Committee, which is a standing committee of the Board of Family Service Association of Northeast PA. And that committee is charged with coming up with the topic. So we'll kick around a variety of ideas, but we try to choose something that is topical, that is current, and something that at times can be a little edgy. The first 2 years that we did this, it was around issues confronted by our military families in our community. And it was very, very successful. In fact, after the first year, we spun off a community action team as a result of that conference because there was such a demand. And we literally had a couple people stand up at the end of the day and say, please don't let this end here. So we didn't, and we carried that forward into the community, into a viable service. The third year, last year, we focused on the juvenile justice system of Luzerne County because, as everybody knows, I mean, there were a ton of issues that went on with Judges Conahan and Chivarella, but there was a lot of good that had happened since then, and we wanted to get that message out to the community and let people know that there have been a lot of changes because that just wasn't the focus for several years. So that was an important message to get out.
And this year's conference is?
It's LGBTQA United in our community, and that came about Again, just looking at some of the issues that are going on nationwide and even locally, and in fact, just to try to, I guess, to reinforce the need for a conference like this, one of the news button points I know of late was the comments made by Guido Barilla from Barilla Pasta. And his comment was something to the effect that you will never see a gay or lesbian couple promoting Barilla Pasta, and if those folks don't like that, they can eat someone else's pasta. That kind of says, in a nutshell, where some people are and why it's important to get the word out that the LGBTQA community is an important part of our community, and we need to understand that to help our community grow.
Explain, if you can, what the letters stand for.
Okay.
John?
LGBTQA, L is for lesbian, G is for gay, B is for bisexual, T is for transgender, Q is for queer or questioning, and then A is for ally, and ally is anyone who does not fit in the LGBTQ portion, but is supportive and sympathetic to the cause.
And that includes family members and friends and
family members, friends, co-workers, employers, yes.
Now, John, tell us a little bit about the Rainbow Alliance for Northeast PA.
Well, the Northeastern Pennsylvania Rainbow Alliance was founded about 10 years ago as a steering committee that really wanted to take a look at the needs of the LGBT population, individuals and families in Northeastern Pennsylvania. It was founded when a member of the community was killed by his partner in a domestic violence incident, and really the issues around same-sex domestic violence were a huge unknown at that time. And a lot of the things that came out of that were there's a lot of educating to be done, not only in the community as a whole, but within the LGBT community. And so we started and have since grown to a larger, more active organization looking to unite LGBT people, individuals and families with services that they have identified as key needs in Northeastern Pennsylvania.
You know, a lot of times we hear that Northeastern Pennsylvania, true or not, is sometimes 20 years behind the curve. What are you seeing in the community as far as being progressive with the issues involving those in that community? That encompasses all those the groups we talked about.
Sure. I think that when we look at the LGBT issues, you go from an area, a spectrum of ignorance to tolerance to acceptance, and then sort of embracement. And I think we've seen in the last 10 years alone, a lot of people move somewhere along that spectrum, where most are somewhere in the area of tolerance and some moving into acceptance. So our goal obviously is to move them all the way into that sort of embracement, and it doesn't really matter what your sexual orientation is or your gender identity, you're accepted and embraced. But we've seen a lot of movement in that area, and obviously the happenings around LGBT issues across the country are in the news all the time now. And I think a lot of the things that we're seeing come out from a national perspective eventually do make it into Northeastern Pennsylvania, and that's a good thing.
Let's talk a little bit. You have a day-long conference coming up. It's November 15th. And who is it open to?
It's open to the public. We actually have tried to develop two target audiences. One is the professionals in the community, and by professionals, you know, we look at not just social workers, and we do offer continuing education units for social workers. We also offer Act 48 credits for teachers who may be able to attend this session, CLEs for attorneys, and you know, we try to focus on different groups because, you know, it's not just something from a broad community perspective that people need to become more familiar with or need to be able to move into that embracement that John talked about. It's professionals as well, because they're just, doesn't seem to be that level across the community and across various professions. So we try to focus on the professions, and then we also try to open it up to the entire community for people to come.
Are you seeing, because of, as John talked before, more of a movement toward acceptance, tolerance, acceptance? Are you hoping for a good turnout? Do you have any expectations?
We've been pretty consistent with these conferences, and in fact, rather incredibly consistent. Out of the 3 years, we've either had 166 or 167 people attend. So we're hoping certainly to meet that number and perhaps exceed it.
What is some of the biggest issues that are facing in our community, the gay and lesbian community? What are some of the biggest issues that are facing?
I think that the biggest issue right now on the sort of the plate is the issue of discrimination. Mm-hmm. And Pennsylvania is the only state left in the Northeast that does not have a statewide non-discrimination law. And what that means is that LGBT people, and I'm going to use the word gay to encompass all that as a general term, but gay people can be fired from their jobs because they're gay. They can be evicted from their homes or their apartments. They can be denied access to public accommodations. So a restaurant could say that I'm not serving gay people today. And that's a big issue. I think that also keeps people, what we use the term closeted. So that means that they're not publicly open about their sexual orientation or gender identity. So they aren't comfortable talking about things that will push the movement forward and add some progressiveness and add some open dialogue, because they're afraid that if somebody finds out they're gay, they might be kicked out of their home or fired. Mm-hmm. And so that's a huge issue that we face.
And let me ask Sarah, as a counselor, or jump in, Mike or John, is that acceptance, it begins really with the family, right? I mean, the family level. Because if they're afraid to tell their family for whatever reason or stay in the closet, how do they progress from there?
Right, absolutely. I think the issue John was speaking to in terms of coming out is visibility. You know, I think that's part of the reason why we're doing this conference. You know, we're a Family Service Association and Rainbow Alliance are organizations who are saying, you know, hey, we're here, you know, and this is something we're willing to do in a public setting, and beyond willing, we're excited to do in a public setting. But certainly, it starts at home. So as much as we can provide that community support, you know, at the end of the day, those LGBT persons have to, you know, and everybody wants acceptance from parents, from other loved ones. So that is difficult. And working as a therapist, there certainly are LGBT persons who are struggling with that, who are looking to find that acceptance within their own families.
You're one of the speakers of the day, Sarah. Tell us what you'll be speaking about.
Yeah, I'm conducting a workshop that's called "My Kids Are Gay, My Parents Are Gay, It's Okay," and you know, the idea is, you know, to talk about what is it like to have a person who's LGBT in your family, because while there's a coming out process for the person who's LGBT, there's also a bit of a coming out process for the family. You know, parents have expectations for their children that they're going to grow up, and if they have a female child, she's going to have a husband, or a male child's going to have a wife one day, and they essentially have to come out to their friends and their family members as well. So we're going to talk about a couple different perspectives in that workshop.
And it is open to family members, of course, the day event, along with the professionals. You're also going to talk about violence and bullying, which is a concern in anybody's community. But how is it different in the gay community?
I think that a telling number is that gay students, or students who are perceived to be gay, have a 4 times more likelihood to be bullied in high school and in school. It's a real issue, and it's something that, because there's not an open dialogue, it's something that people aren't comfortable stepping up and stepping in. Mm-hmm. And so when you're a teacher or a guidance counselor or an administrator to school, and the gay issue comes up, you're not necessarily so willing to step in than if it were, say, a racial discrimination issue, because there's a lack of training that exists in that area. There's also a sort of a discomfort in that area right now, and so we work to overcome that and provide that training and any of those resources through our organization, through both of our organizations.
We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss the NEPA Safe Zone and continue our discussion. Information on today's program and to sign up for the conference is available on pahomepage.com under our Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. Our topic today is the upcoming family conference from the Family Service Association of Northeast PA, LGBTQA United Together. When we took a break, we were talking about bullying, and we want to bring up a program that's offered through the Rainbow Alliance and also offered through the Family Service Association, which is called the NEPA Safe Zone. Tell us a little bit about this.
Sure.
Well, we identified, as I said, we did a lot of research, and we identified a key area that we needed to provide additional support was for LGBT youth. And as I said, they're 4 times more likely to be bullied. There's a lack of resources around that. So we got together a coalition of different organizations, which included Family Service Association, to put together a comprehensive youth program. And I always sort of look at other areas and what they're doing, and Northeastern Pennsylvania is a little different, because if you go to a metropolitan area like Philadelphia or New York, you will find that there are LGBT centers and LGBT youth organizations. We just didn't have that in Northeastern Pennsylvania, and so what we did with Safe Zone was we set out to create one. And through partnerships with different organizations and businesses and Family Service Association to provide sort of the social worker support program for that, it's really become a place where youth can go, whether they're gay themselves or have gay friends and want to learn how to be more supportive of themselves and others, can find a place to get resources.
And we have where they meet on our website. They can find out more information about that.
And Mike, you mentioned, and most people in Northeastern PA, I venture to guess, know Helpline. They've heard of Helpline, the famous jingle. They know what Helpline is, but how does it tie in with this issue now?
Well, one of the things that we're trying to do with Helpline in terms of bullying for youth in particular is to provide a quick access to a telephone number where someone can call at any time of the day, which is what Helpline has been for 40 years, to talk about the issue, and specifically in this situation about being bullied. Now, with some recent changes with communications, we all know that now you have to dial 570 before you dial any number in our area code, or you have to dial the area code. What is happening with Helpline is that we've become what's called a 211 regional coordinator for Pennsylvania 211. And what that means is that people can call 211 without having to dial the 570 number, just dial 211 and it'll track you into the Helpline office so that you can talk about the issues that you're confronting, whatever the issue is. But we're really trying to emphasize that with youth, with the teens, with the kids in high school, or the youth in high school, or the middle school, or even elementary school. If they feel bullied, that's the number to call. And there are trained caseworkers there who can talk to them, and then we'll get them in touch with other professionals as the need arises. So it's important that they remember that that number is there just by dialing 211.
And I know you get thousands upon thousands of phone calls a week. Are you getting calls from the gay community? Are you seeing them calls? Are people reaching out for help?
We always have, at least in the 30 years that I've been associated with Family Service Association, we always have gotten a number. But I think of late, because of some of the issues, because of the bullying issue, and because of some of the programs that are developing, that those numbers are increasing, which is a good thing in many ways, because people are calling to find out what resources are available.
Tell us a little bit more about some of the other speakers that will be taking part in your day-long event.
Sure. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Dr. Tiffany Griffiths, she's going to be there. She's a licensed clinical psychologist. She's going to be talking about working with the LGBT community as a provider. We also have Mr. Pat Rushton from the Victims Resource Center. He's going to be talking more specifically about LGBT victims of crime and things that they experience. We have some attorneys from Borland and Borland Law that are going to be talking about some legal issues specific to the LGBT community. Other speakers?
I think the other thing that we're doing, I think you had mentioned that there's Act 48 credits available.
Oh, yeah, I want to bring that up.
So there'll be a number of workshops specifically aimed at school personnel and making schools safer. And I think there are a number of workshops that we've strategically placed in here for community leaders. So if you're a pastor at a church, or if you're a religious institution, if you're part of your neighborhood association, if you're part of a sports league or a parents association, and you just want to be more educated on how we can be more supportive for members of the LGBT community, especially the youth, this is the conference to come to.
Yeah. The other session, one of the other sessions that we have is focusing not just generically on law, but also on human resource issues in the workplace. We do have, again, we'll have an attorney presenting on that, as well as a human resource specialist, a certified specialist in human resource issues.
What would you want to say to families out there who might be watching this either online or here on broadcast, and they have issues, but they're, for whatever reason, hesitant to reach out for help, maybe not even coming to the conference? What should they do, whether you be young or old or in between, if they're having an issue in the gay community and they just maybe are afraid for whatever reason to come forward?
I think there are a couple resources. One, Mike had mentioned 211, so they can call 211. They can call the Rainbow Line, which will be available on pahomepage.com. They can call or they can stop by our community center during its office hours, during open hours, which is on 315 near Mohegan Sun. They can visit our website at gaynepa.com or the Family Service Association website at fsanepa.org, which also will be at pahomepage.com. And I think the other thing they can do, which has become an increasingly popular channel with people looking for help, is they can search for the NEPA Rainbow Alliance on Facebook, and they can send a message, and we have caseworkers from our organization and Family Service Association that manage that. So if you have a question, you can send a message in, and within 24, 48 hours, someone will get back to you with the help, hopefully the help that you're looking for.
Tell me about the keynote speaker for the day. You also have someone who's going to address the group.
Sure. We have Liz Bradbury, who's the executive director of the Pennsylvania Diversity Network, coming. She is going to talk about inequalities that exist in the LGBT community and what's kind of being done on a legal and legislative level to help make things better for the LGBT community. She's a fabulous speaker and does a lot of workshops and education in northeastern Pennsylvania and the Lehigh Valley. So we're glad that she's coming.
And of course, this is not just open to those in the gay community. Anyone who might be thinking, you know, I want to educate myself and get up to speed on what I can do and what's happening in that community and how I can help out.
Yeah, and that's why we really have the dual focus. One for the professionals, because there are many professionals out there who are going to hear about this conference and the workshops that we're presenting, and they're going to want to learn exactly that. They're thinking that, well, maybe I need to really brush up my skills on this and really understand what the issues are. So certainly those folks, in addition to the general community, just to get a picture of what issues are faced and what resources are out there for folks.
Will you be addressing faith or religion at all during the conference? I know you said they're open to come in, but is that something that would be on the conference?
There's a workshop that brings together leaders from the community, including 2 or 3 clergy are going to be part of that discussion. So they'll talk about creating welcoming places of worship.
I have to ask this question. You mentioned about acceptance, and I think more and more in the media we're seeing on our different TV shows where the introduction of gay characters, and how is that? Is it help? Does it hurt? What do you think?
I think that when we're talking about visibility, again, that word visibility is coming up. I think that visibility in general is a move in the right direction, you know, is something that's positive. Sometimes the characters that we see tend to maybe meet stereotypes, you know, which some people believe may have a negative connotation. But overall, I think that visibility is a positive thing. It's becoming more reflective of the gay people that our community members actually have in their lives.
And we do have about a minute left in the show. I just want, again, the date of the conference, November 15th. And they can call the Family Service Association Northeast PA for more information. Sign up at gaynepa.com. We have that information on pahomepage.com. And the cost of the conference is?
$15.
Okay.
Pretty affordable.
Yes.
So, and again, thank you all for joining us today. The information for today's show is on pahomepage.com under the Newsmakers link. Good luck with your conference.
Thank you.
And for Andy Michalczyk and everyone behind the scenes, I'm Jane Ann Bugda. Thank you so much for making Newsmakers part of your day. Information on today's shows and other shows of Newsmakers, pahomepage.com.